bringing you Grassroots Matters interviews with our host, Sally from Grassland Nutrition, and special guests and collaborators on the topic of nutrition, and more. All right, let's dive headfirst into this episode.
Thanks for joining us today. Sally here from the Grassland Nutrition team. Today we're talking to OBE Organic's Dr. Andrew Blinko, an analytical solver of problems in complex supply chains. Andrew tells us about OBE Organic's story and mission and the inextricable link between our organisations. Delve into the episode.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We are initiating our Grassroots Matters podcast series, and as part of the launch, it makes absolute perfect sense to talk about our backstory and how we came to be working with OBE Organic and how it threads through and is the essence of everything we do, because all of our raw product is sourced from OBE Organic. Now, I know that we've been working with yourself for some time now. If you could just give us a little bit of an intro about what you do within the organisation and OBE Organic's mission, purpose and goals, that would be great.
Thanks, Sally. Yeah, so my role is an operations manager. So that means I sort of have touch points along our entire supply chain. And I find that really an interesting and rewarding sort of role. So our supply chain sort of starts in those outback properties in the Channel Country in Queensland and South Australia, and then moves through to the processing phase, and then the boxing of the beef, and then whether it's distributed domestically or whether the beef is distributed internationally as well. We do export a lot of our beef. A lot of it ends up in the United States, also in Asia and in the Middle East. So that's my role, sort of going from working with the ranchers, the farmers, working with the people who truck the livestock, working with the processor, and then our logistics partners, and also having that connection with our customers here in Australia and all the way around the world. So I find that very, very rewarding. The company started maybe 25, 30 years ago, when organic wasn't really like a claim that was being made on beef, but there was something different about the beef that was being produced in the production area. I think our farmers would hear comments from friends or whoever might have come out to the properties for barbecues that, this beef tasted different. It had that distinct flavour, that grass-fed flavour. And I suppose this is something that I hear a little bit more and more about now, is that grass-fed beef has a different flavour, and people are remembering that flavour from perhaps when they were younger or brought up on beef that wasn't feedlot or grain-fed. So the grass-fed beef has a unique flavour. I guess our unique claim is that the cattle are grazing on herbs and grasses that are indigenous to the production area in that Channel Country. So there might even be more of a unique flavour in the beef that our producers are producing. So I think, there were comments a while ago from friends, family that were having barbecues out in the bush with these producers. And then I think the producers realised that they had something unique here and wanted to find a way to separate their produce from the conventional beef market with which it was being mixed into at that point. And so I think it's at that point they realised that organic may be an angle that they could utilise to carve out their own supply chain. And that's essentially how the company started. This was before I was involved with the company, but there were a lot of administration and I suppose some bureaucracy that needed to be seen to, organic handling plans and all of the things that we do at each point along the supply chain had to be developed and agreed to, so that the claim that our beef is organic could be certified and verified. So that was how it started, and I suppose my role now is just how it's going through all those export markets. Yeah.
Certainly, there's a lot of variety there in your role from what you've described, and it's really quite fast track. You've got multiple touch points. It's really quite jet set as well. So you're going to some really interesting destinations. How many producers do you have within the organisation now that you kind of work with?
Yeah, so I mean, there's probably about 5 core families that we get a lot of the cattle from. There would be some other families that might supply cattle more sporadically, but there's I suppose you might say a core group of 5 families out in the Channel Country in that area. And I probably should add that it's part of the reason the company was set up is for the benefit of those farming families. They are our shareholders. So when cattle markets are doing well, when livestock prices are high, things are probably going quite well for pastoralists. And then inevitably, things change and it becomes more processor focused. So beef prices might be doing well, but livestock prices might not be. And it's at that point that hopefully OBE Organic, as it with a processor kind of or exporter hat on, can be doing well. And then in turn, the returns from that, the dividends from that business go back to the producers themselves. So that's kind of the model as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really interesting to know. And as you know, we freeze dry beef organs, and we have a whole food nutrition model ourselves. We get the raw product from yourselves, and that's shipped to a freeze dryer, and then our products are a result of that. And we produce capsules and powders and whole food chunks. We're even doing suet now, and we've got our kind of plus kelp USP, if you like. So are you able to tell our audience a little bit more about how we work together? I certainly, stand strong and true to the fact that, we believe we're like-minded. We've got the similar approach and value system as well. And that's why our relationship has kind of stood the test of time. But it'd be, I think, really interesting for people to learn how we work with one another.
Yeah. It's been a number of years. I didn't go back and look at how long it's been, but I think. Sorry?
It was 2018.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So 5 years. And I think what's really interesting is that at the time, I think that it was the approach from Grassland Nutrition was the first of its kind. Like we weren't, it was at the time. So we've always had the organs to try and to sell. And prior to that, I think a lot of the organs ended up in Asia. Like there might have been some liver going to Asia. There was some liver going to United States as well. We were sending some liver to be cut into liver steaks in the United States. We also did some heart into Hong Kong. I think there were a few restaurants in Hong Kong that were doing a heart tartare, which I never tried that. But when we started working with Grassland Nutrition, that was the first time where we kind of had more of a standing order for some of the organs, and it was a new approach. I suppose. Like whenever there is further processing done to any part of the products that we are producing, that we have to make sure that we can maintain the organic certification in that process as well. So things, new ideas come along, and new approaches, new product lines come along. So. Yeah, that was something new, and it was, and I think it's probably interesting that there's been more demand for some organs for freeze drying and supplements and powders and so on of late. Like it's something that's become a more common approach lately. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And so I suppose that naturally brings me on to the market and how that has changed over time. Maybe if there's any kind of patterns that you've seen, and with that increase in beef organs, why do you think that might be from your perspective?
Yes, it is something that I've seen a big change in as well. And I've just been travelling in the United States and seen some of the retail stores there, and there are a lot of these like supplement sort of products. Like there's a section in the supermarkets where a lot of these powders that you might mix into hot water or sprinkle on a meal or something like that. It could be collagen, or it could be other sort of protein supplements or something like that. So even in the time that I've been travelling to the United States for OBE, which has been over a similar period, like since the middle of the last decade sort of thing, I've seen that sort of trend there as well. So I think that people just want to make sure that they are getting all of the extra nutrients in their diet, or they want to top up and make sure that they're getting the benefits of whatever it is that they're choosing to supplement their diet with. It's becoming more maybe not quite mainstream, but it's definitely more of an option for the everyday consumer now, especially in the United States, as I've just seen. I don't know that much about other markets, but I've seen it in the United States a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. And I think initially it was getting the education out that although the beef organs seem to have dropped out of favour in kind of Western diets, where you'll remember like your grandparents serving up liver and onions or steak and kidney pie, and we'd be picking those bits out, to now becoming more accessible, a little bit more convenient. And we found that with some of the butchers, the organic butchers that we kind of deliver to, they opt to have the products as complementary to what they're to the raw meats that they're serving, because it hasn't been as accessible for them to get the raw product. So it's great. We're getting more shelf space in the multiples in the supermarkets as well, and it seems that there's a bit of momentum growing as well. So it's really good to see, and interesting that you're seeing that in the States as well, because they tend to kind of lead with some of this stuff. I mean, from an Australian perspective, and I'm originally English, I've been out in Australia for about 12 years now. It seems that they're closely twinned in terms of markets and trends and health.
It is interesting. I mean, one sort of I don't know, curious anecdote is, well, we get the whole carcass to pack every week. So we process a certain number of animals every week, and of course some of those steak cuts that we've all heard about, like tenderloins and others, are in high demand. And then there's other parts of the animal that are like cuts from the foreleg or the hind quarter or something like that are maybe not as in high demand. And I'm sort of sometimes scratching around trying to find places to utilise those cuts. But on the flip side of that, sometimes we're fully sold out of some of the organs. Like we can't produce enough kidney, or we can't produce enough liver or something like that. So it's a curious state of affairs when you've sort of fully utilised on some of these organs, but then some of the muscle cuts or the secondary muscle cuts are still don't quite have a home. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, interesting. And that can change week to week. You're not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Could you describe the different types of customers that you have? Yeah. You spoke about dealing with ranchers earlier, and if you could just expand on that a little.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of our customers around the world are retail focused. So, as opposed to food service, as opposed to fine dining restaurants, the retail focus in a lot of the main export markets that we're in, United States, through Asian capitals, through the Middle East capitals. And even here in Australia, the most of our product is ending up in a retail setting. And part of, I suppose, the reason for that is that we are having production. We are producing beef nearly 52 weeks a year. The abattoirs typically shut down over the Christmas period. So for all but that Christmas period, we're able to produce beef. And so in a retail setting, you want your product to be on the shelf year round. So that's a good thing. And that's kind of, that's something that Australia has in its favour. Like the climate is such that the beef industry operates year round, whereas there are other parts of the world where it's more cyclical. So that characterises a lot of the customers we have around the world. There are some places where we are doing some food service kind of settings, like if we're selling into Indonesia and a place like Bali, then that's a lot of restaurants and so on there. There's probably one of the other distinctions of the markets that we have is there's some frozen beef that goes for grinding into like 1 pound ground beef blocks, or sausages, or hot dogs, or hamburger patties in the United States. A lot of it will end up in the United States as a grinding product. But for those primals, they mostly end up in a retail setting. The other organ sort of customers that we have, they're also ending up. I suppose I mentioned most of them before. Just there have been some liver steaks in the United States, and then Asia can typically take a few other odds and ends from the organs as well. But that's not as consistent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. So from your experience and our working together, is there anything specific that you'd like to share with the audience from either what you've learned along the way in your role in line with OBE Organic's kind of goals for the next few years, or anything specific that you think might be of interest in us telling our kind of dual story?
Yeah, I think, so before I was working at OBE, I didn't really know too much about beef. I come from a different background. So a lot of what I've learned about beef and then organic has sort of been entirely during my time working here. And so, first of all, you learn a little bit about the different benefits of grass-fed beef over grain-fed beef, and you might talk about ratios of certain fatty acids, one versus the other. And then, the sort of the organ side of thing became more of a prominent part of our production, and just learning there about the benefits of organs, or the way that they can be a supplement to your diet to benefit or promote the function of the corresponding organs in your own body. So that sort of learning I've always found interesting. But I think it's an approach so grassland nutrition, along with a lot of customers that we have, and typically customers that we have a long-term relationship with. There's a few things that are sort of seem to resonate. I suppose one of them that we haven't touched on so far is we often find it beneficial to be working with other sort of like family-run companies. I think that family-run companies kind of get each other and know why they're in business together and understand what it is to be running a family company. So, and there's a lot of distributors in other parts of the world where we're dealing with a family-run business, and it's generally a lot more of an easy experience than working with a bigger corporate company. So that's one aspect. It also, when you're dealing with a smaller company or a smaller partner, they're often have this, the values are shared, and then also the story wants to be shared. And I suppose it's because being a smaller company, seeing eye to eye on a few things means that you develop a trust over a time, and you're happy to share your story with us. We're happy to share your story. We're not going to try and cut each other out, or do anything like that, and perhaps not in so much in our case, but in other parts of the world there can be some sensitivity where if I'm selling to a distributor in a city and they're selling to a retailer, they might not want us to know what retailer that is, because they think that we might go and approach the retailer directly and cut them out. But that's not what we do. And I think we can establish that trust pretty quickly and have a relationship with both the person who we're dealing with, whether it's the wholesaler or the further processor or whatever, and the end market. And we can sort of work together to make sure that the story of our production area, which is what we're trying to promote together, is that we have a product that's coming from a very clean, unique production area. We can work together and perhaps use each other's channels through, whether it's social media or whether there's other sort of promotional opportunities, just to for the benefit of both our businesses. So I think that's an aspect that I like about working with Grassland Nutrition and working with a lot of other companies that are of a similar mindset.
Yeah, it's a lot more rewarding, isn't it, to know that you're all in it together. We're all helping each other out. Flows a lot better. Now, it has just come to mind, but I find that I'm always challenged a little bit by not necessarily what is meant by grass-fed, grass-finished, but I know that you walk into a retail store and you're wanting to get a prime cut, for example, and when you're looking at, you can see maybe organic grass-fed. You sometimes see organic grass-fed, grass-finished, GMO hormone-free. What should people look for when they're looking for your product? What are the labels stands out that actually, guarantees a big word, isn't it? But that actually give people the reassurance that what they are purchasing is absolutely GMO free, is free of hormones, it isn't grain fed.
Yeah. So, the answer to this question is more easy to give those guarantees in our export markets, because there's the regulations around the use of the term organic is a lot tighter in our export markets. So in the United States and many other places, but we have a USDA NOP, National Organic Program certification for our supply chain, which means we can use the USDA NOP certification, and that sort of guarantees that supply chain is organic. And I suppose the one important distinction as well, and is that organic means GMO free. So there can be other certifications that will just say this is GMO free, but as part of organic, it has to be free of genetically modified organisms. So So, and that's something that I sometimes we have to push back on because we don't. So our supply chain is certified organic by a third party. It's not us. It's not the farmers that are saying that our supply chain is organic. It's audited annually by a third party. And because of the remote area where our farms are, the annual audit is not a simple undertaking. It's in the remote part of Australia. To do that, we have to we facilitate the chartering of an aircraft so that the auditor and can fly around and visit the properties, and even just organising the way the order in which the audit run takes place is quite an undertaking. You have to understand where we can go from where we can get avgas to top up the plane, where the auditor and the pilot, and there's usually another representative, where they can sleep. If they need ground transport, can they get ground transport to go around to look at other parts, other properties that are near there.
Now, do you take the products yourself? Do you take the Grassland Nutrition products?
Yes, I have been. Yes, yes. I have. I have the liver capsules, and I also have some of. I don't think I have them now, but the liver and seaweed ones, and
yes.
I've also used some of the seaweed in the past. I typically I have them here I'm in the office at the moment. I have them at my desk in the office, and when I come in the morning, I usually take 2 of the liver capsules.
That's great to hear, Andrew. Do you need some more?
I probably should organise that. Yes.
A big thanks to Andrew for his time and his openness. I learnt more about how OBE Organic works with its farmers and how vast the Channel country landscape is, protecting its cattle and ensuring their grass-fed diets across their entire lives. I could go on. Join us for our next episode, coming out soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Grassroots Matters podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please feel free to rate, subscribe, or leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll come back again for the next episode.